What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today, I'm going to talk about women in blue. Just, women walking around in blue. And I'm blind. So I should say it's an Apple Plus show. In case you didn't know, with the Blitz campaign that Apple Plus has given the show, knowing that it doesn't necessarily have recognizable stars here in America, trying to bring that, you know, uh, well, people like me in, uh, non-Spanish speakers, because we came for Pachenko, so they're trying to branch out and do a little bit more of what Netflix is doing with their international content. So this does have audio description on it. It is English audio description, which means it does have dubbing because the entire series is in Spanish. This is not like Eva Longoria's series, which was half in English, half in Spanish. This is entirely in Spanish, so the whole thing is dubbed. We'll get into that, I promise. But first, I want to introduce myself to my blind audience. I do have a black baseball cap on this morning with a black pair of sunglasses and my Green Lantern shirt. So, I don't really have anything appropriate for Women in Blue anyway. So what is Women in Blue about? Women in Blue is a time capsule. So we are sent a little bit back in time. Actually, it's getting to be more and more. I'm just getting older and not realizing that like the 1960s they're still there. They didn't move. We just keep moving further away from them. So we're sent back to a time. I love how IMDb calls it the ultra conservative. And I'm like, after watching the first two episodes, I was like, yeah, I can see that. And they're jumping back to a time when there's a serial killer that is roaming. I don't know if this is a true story or not. Drop in the comments and let me know if you are. I'm always honest. Somebody called me out on, do you know that Decameron was a novel? I was like, no. I said at the beginning of my interview, of my review, I was like, I did not know what this was when I clicked on it. The most I knew was that it had Tony Hale in it because I heard somebody refer to it as Tony Hale's the Cameron. And I was like, he's definitely not the star of this. So, yeah. Women in Blue there's this serial killer called the Undresser, which sounds like not just like one of those like lame Batman villains, but actually like somebody who would sign up to be one of the mystery men. What's your power? I'm the undresser. What do you do? I undress really fast. But that's the name of the serial killer. And because he leaves his victims naked after he kills them. So the undresser doesn't really strike fear but he's got a couple of victims already, and he will have more as the series progresses. And there's some pressure because the police force is entirely male. The police force is also has a really low, score with the citizens. They're not very popular. They're seen as being the problem, not the solution. So what they do is they decide we're gonna finally have some female cops on the force. So they open it up finally to some women. And this is a story about some women who apply to be among the first group of women. And of that group, we focus on 4 women. Largely in the first episode, we focus mostly on Maria. I would say Maria's the lead here of the 4 women. They're not all given equal screen time, even though it makes it sound like it's 4 women. They really just are not. Maria is a housewife, a mother. Her husband is constantly going away for business trips, or quote business trips. We don't know. And she is not really happy with her marriage, and Her sister's really excited about this opportunity to do this and wants to, suggest to Maria, we should do this, And so Maria decides, yes, I want to do this. And there's this whole thing with her storyline about stepping out and people and what her family thinks of her. They call it a compulsion of hers. She's like, it's not a compulsion. I, you know, I read detective novels as a kid. I want to do this. This is what I've always wanted to do. I just didn't know I could. That path was not open to me. So, she has sort of like a complex, interesting story. And I would say in the first 2 episodes, she's the lead of the 4. The other 3 do have screen time. One of them is the daughter of another police captain, commander, chief, something. Like, he's somewhere high up in the ranks, and she has brothers who are on the force, and they like what they do, but they don't want her to do it. It's that, again, it's just a very sort of like anti men. Men suck here, and I'm not arguing that that's a bad idea, because the men in here do suck, in one way or another, like varying ranges of suck. There isn't really like that one guy who's just like, yeah, you should do it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, let me know how I can support you in your decision to fulfill your life stream now that it's available to you. This is just a time period when you're like, what? Women want to do what? They don't want to clean and cook? How dare they? How dare they? Make me my dinner. It's, as a matter of fact, like, them being worried about what about dinner is like a huge part of this. for some of these characters. But who's gonna make dinner? It's like, I don't know, man. I got nothing for you on this. I guess you're gonna starve. If you can't figure that out for yourself, if you can't figure out food, we got. Anyway, so these women boldly go where no women have gone before, and they join the police force to help try to track down the serial killer. But they're given virtually nothing to do. They're not given guns. They're not really even given like a baton or mace, or they're given a whistle. Like, they're given a whistle. And they're given coin purses to call other policemen. It's really, I don't know anything about Mexican culture, but your shit is weird, man. I don't know. I don't know what's like. There's a serial killer out there killing women, so we're gonna send women out there, and we're not gonna give them anything to defend themselves with. Not one fucking thing. Not even a knife. We're not gonna give them anything. Not even like brass knuckles. Like, nothing. You have change to call for help and a whistle. That is it. Go fight the serial killer. So, we see them go out there, and basically they're there, like, they're just like a goodwill thing to make the people feel like the cops are more warm and fuzzy, because now they've got women, and they're just walking around, and they're like taking photos with people, and they've finding a lost dog, stuff like that. It's just not they're not doing any real police work. So, but in the second episode, they stumble upon another body, which puts them closer to the case, because the 4 leads, stumble upon a body, and it's this body that also we have seen this girl sort of getting, and like the trajectory of sort of backgroundish. We didn't really get to know her that well, but she did have a sister that reported her missing, and the police chief was like, do you know how many women come in here and say that their sisters or mothers or daughters or whatever have run away, and then it turns out they just were having an affair, and then they just didn't want anybody to know about it, and blah 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 blah. It's like, these people are awful. How is anybody getting to go to Mexico? Um, so, and then like there's like a very like dramatic scene later on where he just like stares at the photos. He's like, oh shit. Oh, I really stepped in it this time. Oh God. Because the sister gave him a photo and then he's like looking at a photo of the victim and he's like, oh fuck me. Oh God. Oh, I told her. Oh my God. He's just like, but he's just like staring at the photo. No, he's not saying anything. He just like stares at the photo for like an uncomfortable amount of time in a TV series. Um, because I guess men in Mexico are, they have no emotions. They have no, they don't know how to deal. They're like, but who's cooking my dinner right now? So, uh, eh, anyway, I'm sure the series is gonna be great. I'm excited for it. It's got problems. I'm gonna be honest, it's not perfect, and I'm gonna be honest to people who are looking for certain things to happen in their show. Listen, this show, yes, the men in here are all assholes. And yes, there's violence against women. I'm going to address that right up front. One of these girls wants to become a police officer. Her dad flat out fucking slaps her in the face. Just like wallops her in the face. Just not even joking. So we've got abuse thrown in there. Um and there's a word that's used that we don't use anymore, that they're using. And I'm like, this is the 1960s and it's Mexico. So throwing American standards into other countries and other TV series is not necessarily, like, it's not really as strong of a case as you think it is. So, this is made somewhere else and we're putting it over here. But there's definitely a phrase here that's going to make some people bristle because we don't say that anymore. How do I put this? Their leading suspect in this case, the one that they think might have done it, is low on the IQ scale. Now think what terms we no longer use to describe that, and think what they might use here. So, because they do. Again, this is in the 1960s and it's in Mexico. So unless you're from the 1960s in Mexico, you won't know if this is historically accurate or not for Mexico. But we don't, yeah, I heard that and I was like, somebody's going to have a problem with that. So you've been warned. Trigger warning. If you do not want to hear those words, the series is not for you. So we, I think it's, on the other hand, if you can get through that, if you can get through little things like that, some of it was weird because it's like culturally just doesn't translate well. When you translate literal Spanish to English, there's just like, there's the way we say dates here in America, right? We'll say like, June 1st, 2020, over there they say the way that they write their dates is the 1st of June 2020. But do they say it that way? Because that's how the characters are saying their dates. So it comes out that way, which is a little clunky for us listening to it as an American audience, because it's a literal translation of what they just said instead of figuring out that sort of like Spanish to English. Like, well, we would say the date this way, but they say the date this way. So you have to listen to somebody say a date, like the 3rd of March, 1964, So there are little things like that feel like they're a little out of place because of the actual translation of the dialect. Um, I I'm giving this show. I talk a lot about character definition and like I've been pushing a lot for certain shows to have racial representation, especially shows where the race is either intentionally diverse or important to the show. This is neither. This show it's a Spanish language show from Mexico. I think this entire cast is Mexican. It's also historical, so it's going to be even pushed more to represent whatever 1960s Mexico City looked like instead of trying to worry about meeting a diversity quota. Not every country is worried about the same things that we're worried about and has the same problems that we have. And that's the thing with international cinema, is that a lot of times you're going to get the same thing. I'm not going to say every time, because you have stuff, while it's not an international film, it's an American film. Hotel Rwanda is a great example of a film where you have uh, a clear division where you wouldn't necessarily notice there was one. You know, the Hutsi and Tutsi in Rwanda, that whole film is about this racial division that perhaps a lot of us in America wouldn't know or notice. Um, so I think it left a lot of people wondering what was the difference, and maybe in something like that, that's where you would get it. There's no mention of it here. If there is any of that down in Mexico, in Mexico City, where they can tell, oh, you're from this, from there. Oh, you have this, oh, I don't want you because you're unclean from this kind of thing. There's nothing like in India with the, um, what are they called? The Untouchables. Nothing like that. So it never comes up. Nobody's race ever comes up in this show. Ever. Um, so I'm just going to assume that it doesn't matter and that everybody looks exactly the same and they have a racial harmony. In which case, I guess it doesn't really matter, because then you're just describing the same thing for everybody. Um, so we can get more into detail about what their other looks are, what they're wearing, their hair colors, their styles, stuff like that. They do it a little bit, but not a lot. They could do more. Um, I didn't I didn't feel like I got great character description, even removed from the fact that nobody is described ethnically or racially. I just felt like I got maybe some hair and like an occasional costume choice, other than the uniforms that they wear, which still I feel like were a little under described. Like at one point they're mistaken as flight attendants, which would be, I kind of felt like I wanted more context there in order to make that joke land, in order to understand why they look like flight attendants. It's just a joke that may or may not work for us, because then we open up the can of worms of, so what do Mexican flight attendants look like in this time period? How close is this outfit to a Mexican flight attendant? Did we pass one back there that we forgot to describe, and then we were supposed to, get an idea of what their outfit looked like and see the similarity in what a female police officer looks like? I don't know, because that didn't happen. So there's stuff like that. It's not, it's not maybe the easiest show to describe, because you're having to also try to figure out a culture or something that you're not necessarily a part of, and understand things that maybe you don't fully understand, that were not maybe meant for you. But it's certainly important to go ahead and try to do the best job that you can, because one of the great things about international cinema and also international television is that we see shows that are unlike ours, that are fresh perspectives, that continue to give us a worldview of what other countries, cultures, cities, people live, what they live, what it's like for them, what their politics are like in different areas, what are their concerns. So a series like this is still really important to watch, and even if it doesn't fully 100% translate perfectly, I still would take that any day over the week over just being like, well, we don't need to describe international content for blind people. I'd be like, I'm pushing really hard for more international content because we should be getting it. And we just kind of scrape the surface most of the time. So I would love, this is more of a, I'm positive that this is more of a voice acting and dubbing thing that I'm about to say here, that they have a dub cast and that they just added audio description to the dub cast. I don't think this is one of those cases where the audio description narrators are providing the dubbing. I think they actually have a dub cast. I think Apple paid for a dub cast. One of the things that I notice quite frequently with dub casts is that we have no real problem with sort of whitewashing the voices. And it's, even though we're the melting pot of the world and we have people here from all over who could do voices in English that represent, that still sound like / represent their culture, I think this is an entirely white voice cast doing these voices. These people sound very, very white to me. And it's sort of uncomfortable because I'm like, this takes place in Mexico. You could say it's for the clarity of voice, but at the same time, I think we're missing stuff because then you get into like the voice acting, like what is voice acting versus dubbing? What is audio description? And at the same time, I think if you're hiring actors to dub, you are hiring them to act. Now, sometimes when you don't hire them to dub and it just comes along naturally as part of the audio description, that's one thing. I think this is a dub cast. There are way too many voices here. I don't think Apple is paying for this. And the kind of companies that Apple uses usually don't support that structure. I could hear less voices in their Eva Longoria series than Land of Women than in this. So I'm thinking sort of like Pachenko, I think uses more voices. I think when they have a cast that never slips into English, I think they go ahead and add a dub cast. So if that's true, this acting is really terrible and it should be better cast than that. I don't know who these voice actors are, but it's really hard to listen to this level of acting. I don't know. It's just, can we try? Can we maybe try to do some acting? This is why people are so against dubbing, is it never comes across good. This is why some directors, why Alfonso Cuarón has no dub for Roma, because he's afraid that people are going to sound like this. So maybe if we tried, I think that like the All Quiet on the Western Front dub sounds really good, and those actors who dubbed that were excellent. You can do it. It's possible. But when we don't do it, it just kind of shortchanges the show and what the show's trying to say. And what the show's trying to say here is very important. It's women were getting screwed over. Don't forget that. Especially in this day and age when, we're sitting here and once again, politics, we have a woman who's trying to become the first to do something here in a country where it's happened already in other countries, but we're like, no, we're the most progressive nation in the world. Then why hasn't it happened here? The country in which this show is taking place has had a female leader. Why haven't we? So I think it's still important to have these conversations, but I don't know that this voice cast is necessarily going to be the honey that draws the flies to the meal. So yeah, I had a lot of thoughts on Women in Blue. It seems like it's going to be a good show. It's not scary if you're thinking it's a serial killer show. I can't stand that. I don't know how the bodies look, but no gore was described. So if these bodies are gory at all, fail on the audio description because they're pretty much they find a corpse and it's like lying face down naked or something like that. It's just like it's a dead body. I mean, like there's no real description here of anything. So, and certainly the killer is not given the kind of direction that would make you scared of him. Like there's nothing in the first two episodes that lead me to believe that this is going to turn into like a slasher show or a thriller or anything. It seems to be more of like a drama about uh, gender studies than anything else. So anyway, I think it's mostly okay. I'm not like super excited by it, but most of that has to do with the dubcast. If I'm totally honest, they're really pulling it down for me. It's it's like they were all given the note to not act as much as humanly possible. It's not good. Not a single person here reads their line in any sort of way that makes it sound like that they have any idea of what's going on. Very disappointing. Um, so, unfortunately, I'm going to give Women in Blue a B, but I want you to know if this had a different dub voice cast, that would probably be higher. But I really can't with this. Like, I don't like the dub voice cast. I don't like how white it sounds. I don't like that on top of it, the white actors don't even sound like they're good. Like, we didn't even get like good voice actors. Like everything's just sort of read uncomfortably. It's very anyway. Um, so that's Women in Blue. Check it out on Apple Plus. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.